At 77, Don Felder, former guitarist of the Eagles, is finally speaking out about his old bandmate Joe Walsh. From battles with substance abuse to personal losses, controversies, and the highs and lows of their time in the band, we're diving into every shocking detail. The contrast between Felder and Walsh's guitar styles played a huge role in shaping the Eagles' signature sound. Felder's precise, polished technique blended with Walsh's wilder, more spontaneous approach, creating a dynamic balance. But behind the scenes, things weren't always so harmonious. When Felder left the band, it deepened the divide between them. Joe Walsh wasn't just known for his incredible guitar skills, he was also infamous for his larger-than-life party-fueled lifestyle. His carefree attitude and wild energy set him apart from the more reserved Felder. Walsh's past struggles with substance use gave him an unpredictable edge, which often reflected in his playing style. He leaned toward bluesy, free-flowing solos, while Felder preferred structured, refined compositions. This difference, combined with the fact that Walsh often stole the spotlight, led to tensions, especially since most of the drama actually started between Felder and Glenn Frey. Unlike Walsh, Felder was known for his discipline and methodical approach. His calm, introverted personality often made him feel out of sync with the rest of the band. He has admitted to feeling frustrated with what he saw as Walsh's lack of dedication, especially during the 1970s and 80s, when Walsh's struggles sometimes disrupted the band's workflow. Joseph Fiddler Walsh was born on November 20th, 1947, and went on to become one of America's most legendary guitarists, singers, and songwriters. He's best known for his role in the Eagles, but his early life was marked by heartbreak. His first major tragedy struck when he was just a toddler. His father, Robert Newton Felder, a U.S. Air Force pilot, was killed in a plane crash in Okinawa on July 22, 1949. At 5 years old, Walsh was adopted by his stepfather and took his last name, though he kept Fiddler as his middle name. In the mid-1950s, it was common for children to adopt their stepfather's name for Social Security, school, and health records. By age 10, Walsh got his first guitar. The moment he mastered the Ventures' hit Walk, Don't Run, he knew music was his calling. One of Walsh's biggest inspirations in his early years was the meteoric rise of the Beatles. He kicked off his journey as a rock musician by replacing Bruce Hoffman as the bassist for the Nomads, a well-known local band in Madison, New Jersey. But his life took a dark turn in 1970 when he witnessed the tragic Kent State Massacre firsthand. The event left a deep mark on him, and after just one term in college, he made a life-changing decision. He dropped out to chase his musical dreams full-time. Over the years, Walsh's influence on rock music has been celebrated by legends like Jimmy Page, Eric Clapton, and Pete Townsend. With a career spanning over 5 decades, his impact is undeniable. He's released 12 solo studio albums, 6 compilation albums, and 2 live albums, on top of his work with multiple bands, including James Gang and New Zealand's Herbs. Walsh was also part of the supergroup The Best and thrived as both a solo artist and a sought-after session musician. By 2011, his extraordinary talent earned him the 54th spot on the list of the 100 greatest guitarists of all time. In the mid-1960s, fresh out of Kent State University, Walsh played with several local Ohio bands before skyrocketing to national fame with James Gang. It was with this group that his electrifying guitar skills truly took center stage. But in 1972, Walsh parted ways with James Gang and formed Barnstorm alongside Joe Vitale and Kenny Passarelli. Despite releasing 3 albums, their music was marketed as solo projects under Walsh's name. Their final album, So What, featured major contributions from several Eagles members, foreshadowing what was to come. By 1975, at the recommendation of producer Bill Shamchek, Walsh officially joined the Eagles as a guitarist and keyboardist, replacing founding member Bernie Lidon. His debut album with the band, none other than the legendary Hotel California. In 1998, Guitarist magazine readers voted the soaring dual guitar solos by Walsh and Don Felder on Hotel California as the greatest of all time. Guitar World later ranked it 8th among the top 100 guitar solos ever. As a core member of the Eagles, Walsh was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1998 and later into the Vocal Group Hall of Fame in 2001. The Eagles weren't just a band. They defined an era. To this day, they remain one of the best-selling American bands in history. In 1975, when Walsh was invited to replace founding member Bernie Lidon in the Eagles, there was some hesitation within the band, especially from Don Henley. Walsh had a reputation for being wild, and many questioned whether he would mesh with the group's more polished style. By the time their highly anticipated album finally dropped, it had taken a grueling year and a half to complete. The recording process, combined with relentless touring, left the band mentally and physically drained. But the effort paid off. The album's second single soared to the top of the charts in May 1977, cementing itself as one of the Eagles' most iconic songs. One standout feature of the album was its signature blend of Henley's lead vocals with a mesmerizing guitar duet by Felder and Walsh, while Life in the Fast Lane, one of the album's hardest-hitting tracks, was built entirely around a scorching riff by Walsh. It climbed to number 11 on the charts and solidified Walsh's place within the band. In 1977, while Don Felder sat out, the rest of the Eagles contributed instrumental work and backing vocals to Randy Newman's album Little Criminals, with Fry and Schmidt lending their voices to the controversial hit Short People when the Eagles disbanded in July 1980. Walsh pushed forward with his solo career, continuing to release albums. However, despite his talent, his later work never quite reached the same commercial success as his earlier days. Joe Walsh's personal life has been marked by both heartbreak and hardship. He's been married 5 times, first to Margie Walsh in the 1960s, then to Stephanie Rhodes in the 1970s, followed by Juanita Boyer in the 1980s. From 1999 to 2006, he was with Denise Driscoll, and finally on December 13th, 2008, he tied the knot with Marjorie Bach, a sister of Barbara Bach and sister-in-law to Ringo Starr. But beneath the rock star lifestyle, Walsh carried deep sorrow. His first solo album, released in December 1974, contained deeply personal tracks like Held Me Through the Night and Song for Emma, a heartfelt tribute to his daughter Emma, who tragically passed away in a car accident. Emma was born on April 29, 1971, but her life was cut short on April 1, 1974, at just 3 years old after she sustained fatal injuries on her way to nursery school. To honor her memory, Walsh had a fountain and memorial plaque placed in North Boulder Park, Colorado, a place where she once loved to play. He later revealed that his album, So What, was a direct result of his grief, admitting that, in the months after her passing, nothing else in life seemed to matter. The emotional strain also played a role in his divorce from his second wife. Beyond his personal losses, Walsh also struggled in love due to substance use. His relationship with Stevie Nicks came to an end because of their shared addiction. He once confided in her friend, singer Sharon, saying he had to leave Stevie not because he stopped loving her, but because their habits had spiraled out of control. He feared that if they stayed together, one of them wouldn't survive and the other wouldn't be able to save them. The only way to save them both was for him to walk away. Beyond his struggles with substance use, Joe Walsh has also faced challenges with ADHD, OCD, and Asperger's syndrome. His battle with strong drinks was another major hurdle, particularly in the early years of his career. However, since 1993, he has been on the path to recovery. His wake-up call came in 1994 when he blacked out on a flight to Paris. When he landed, he found his passport in hand, but had no memory of boarding the plane. That terrifying realization became his turning point, and from that moment on, he remained sober. Now, let's dive into his relationship with Don Felder and how he struggled to stand up against the turmoil they both faced. Both Walsh and Felder are legendary guitarists who helped define the Eagles' sound, yet their personalities and working styles often clashed. When Walsh joined the band in 1975, Felder had already been a member since 1974. While Walsh brought a bluesy, free-spirited energy to the music, Felder leaned into a more technical, polished approach. Despite their differences, their dual guitar sound became one of the band's most defining features. Yet the tension within the Eagles often put a strain on their professional relationship. Over the years, Felder found himself navigating the internal politics and power struggles within the band, at times feeling isolated. Walsh, though known for his laid-back attitude, was unable to shield Felder from the internal battles that ultimately shaped the band's legacy. Despite being fired from the Eagles and facing multiple lawsuits against the band, Don Felder still looks back on his time with legendary guitarist Joe Walsh with a mix of nostalgia and regret. Though his departure from the Eagles was far from what he had hoped, he fondly remembers the high points, performing across the world, creating music that defined a generation, and sharing unforgettable moments with Walsh on stage. This fluid, instinctive give and take was something Felder and Walsh naturally understood. Whether performing with the Eagles, jamming before they were bandmates, or playing together in Joe Walsh and Friends sessions, they had an almost telepathic connection. Felder described how they could improvise seamlessly without prior planning, simply by sensing the rhythm of the others playing, knowing when to step forward as the lead and when to fade into the background as support. It was this dynamic that made their dual guitar sound one of the most iconic elements of the Eagles' music. Despite their contrasting playing styles, both Don Felder and Joe Walsh were instrumental in shaping the Eagles' signature sound. Felder's intricate guitar work gave the world the iconic solo on Hotel California, while Walsh brought an electrifying energy to the stage with his blues-infused rock style. For a time, their collaboration flourished, but as the years passed, an undercurrent of resentment began to emerge. Felder later admitted that he felt sidelined within the band, particularly after Walsh's arrival. While Walsh was a free-spirited rock and roller with a wild, carefree attitude, Felder had a more structured technical approach. This difference became more pronounced as tensions within the band escalated. By 2001, when Felder was fired from the Eagles due to conflicts with Don Henley and Glenn Frey, Walsh, though not directly involved, was still part of the group. His position in the band's inner politics was complicated, and Felder's departure only deepened the cracks between them. As the Eagles reached their peak in the late 1970s, creative control increasingly fell into the hands of Henley and Frey. Felder later expressed that it often felt like the duo favored Walsh's musical style over his, making him feel like an outsider. While he has since mentioned that he harbors no ill will toward all his former bandmates, his relationship with Walsh was never quite the same. Their time together was a mix of brilliant collaboration and underlying personal friction. Proof that even great musical partnerships can be strained by the pressures of fame. Despite their contrasting styles and personalities, Don Felder and Joe Walsh were both instrumental in defining the Eagles' legendary sound. However, the internal strife that plagued the band during its peak years, coupled with the tensions that followed Felder's departure, strained their relationship. While there was undeniable mutual respect for their musical talents, their personal differences remained unresolved. Joe Walsh's life has been marked by profound tragedy, from losing his father at a young age to the heartbreaking death of his 3-year-old daughter in a car accident. Added to that were the emotional struggles from failed marriages and his long battle with substance abuse. These personal demons not only shaped his music, but also impacted his relationships, including his friendship with Felder. Their musical chemistry was undeniable, their differing personalities created friction. Even when they found common ground, Felder's eventual firing from the Eagles was a painful turning point. Walsh's decision to remain with the band further deepened the divide between them. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe and check out the next video on your screen.